Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Hope you're having a great day. You're going to have a great listen to this show. Travis Wittaker is on. He works for clinical outreach for True Recovery and Simple Recovery, our first responder wellness program in Newport. And I named this podcast, Where is Your Rock Bottom Going to Be? Some of you listening might be suffering right this minute, waiting for your rock bottom. Maybe you think you hit your rock bottom. Maybe you've hit your rock bottom numerous times, and it just keeps on getting deeper and deeper and deeper. So how do you know when you've hit your rock bottom? How do you know when you are done suffering? Drugs, alcohol, mental health issues, PTS. When do you know? Well, I heard something early on in my recovery. You know you've hit your rock bottom when you put down the shovel. You don't have to keep digging. Just put it down and ask for help. Sounds simple enough. In reality, it really is simple. Have the courage to reach out to someone that you trust, someone that you care about, someone that cares about you. Reach out and let them into your heart. Lots of good people out here just waiting for your call, waiting to have the opportunity to help you. Talking to the first responders out there, you're going to spend the rest of your life helping everybody else and neglecting yourself? Maybe. You don't have to. There's people out there trained and have been around the block just like you have, afraid of telling everybody exactly what is going on. Unfortunately, a lot of this leads to suicide. We're unable to state our true feelings about what's going on, and we end up suffering in silence. So I got recovery through a program called Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a program designed exactly for me, and it could be designed for you too if you let it work. It's a program of attraction, not promotion. However, I never heard about it the way I'm actually living my program once I got into recovery. The stigma against any kind of recovery programs, especially programs that I saw that were mostly located inside churches, sort of took me away from it. I didn't want to be part of any kind of quote-unquote cult. In my mind, that's what it was. I really knew that I was suffering, and I wasn't willing to walk in those doors out of fear. So there's a book that's called The Daily Reflections. It's a day-by-day reflection. It has some really good stuff in it. And this is for June 21st. It's titled Fear and Faith. And I'm going to read it to you, and then we'll get on with the podcast. Okay, Fear and Faith. The achievement of freedom from fear is a lifetime undertaking, one that can never be wholly completed. When under attack, acute illness, or in other conditions of serious insecurity, we shall all react to this emotion, well or badly, as the case may be. Only the self-deceived will claim perfect freedom from fear. Fear has caused suffering when I could have had more faith. There are times when fear suddenly tears me apart, just when I'm experiencing feelings of joy, happiness, and lightness of heart. Faith and the feeling of self-worth towards a higher power helps me endure tragedy and ecstasy. When I choose to give all of my fears over to my higher power, I will be free. I hope you all can develop some kind of higher power in your life, a higher self, that this life means something. We're here for a reason. We're not an accident. We're here to survive, and we can do that with the community of recovery. So I challenge you to do this. I strongly suggest that you do this if you're willing to. If you're willing to be 100% completely honest with yourself, pray, ask for help. Doesn't make a difference what you really believe in. If you believe in anything, what harm can it do? See what happens. Being around people in recovery for many years now, it's a common theme when people end up surrendering and asking for help, truly meaning it. You can lie to yourself all you want. It's okay. I did for numerous years, but I choose not to anymore. So live the life that you're living right now, or just take a chance. Aren't you tired of doing the same things over and over and over again and expecting different results? Hi, this is Mike Cook, and welcome to Positive Connections Radio. This show is intended to help break the stigma of mental health issues among first responders. I know from personal experience how PTSD, depression, and addiction can take over your life while suffering in silence. I was a police officer for 19 years and spent the last 10 years of my career as an undercover narcotics detective. I didn't reach out because of fear, lack of trust, shame, and stigma. It took me losing it all before I got help. With a new perspective and passion for life, I can now help others find a way out. Working together with peer support, wellness units, and the mental health and recovery field, we can bring about positive change for the ones who protect us all. The guests on this show offer unique and valuable information, support, and experience, and are the voice for those waiting to be heard. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the show, Travis Wittaker. I appreciate you being on. Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely, Michael. Thanks for having me.
And why don't you just tell everybody what you're doing right now, and then we'll get to where you came from and how you got here.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, I'm the VP of Clinical Outreach for True Behavioral Health, True Recovery, and then also working with the Simple Recovery, to help first responders as well. So kind of get to do a little bit of both. I really enjoy helping first responders, and I've been doing it for about 4 years as well, being part of that. So I'm excited. What a
coincidence. We both work at the same place.
Yeah, right. I love it. You're doing good stuff. I appreciate you. I appreciate all you've done.
Right on. Well, it's great having you. And I know that, in the field of recovery and the field of marketing and outreach, you're one of the good ones, and you're one of the ethical ones that I know of. You work with some good people, and I'm sure that, True and Simple are totally happy to have you on board.
I appreciate that.
So what brought you to working with people? So you do interventions too now, right? With your wife?
Yeah. So I own an intervention business called Living Recovery Interventions. And my wife, it's not her favorite thing to do, but I wanted her to sit second chair in this last one I did so she can get a better picture and understanding of what it takes, to get a family on board, to get the one who's suffering, from addiction to buy in and accept the help and the gift of recovery, like we have. It's been, it's not been a perfect ride in my 12 years of sobriety, and it's not supposed to be, but you learn along the way, and you get a great toolbox of how to deal with pressure situations and not have to drink and drug.
That's awesome. And a lot of people listening to want to know how to do that. I mean, 12 years ago, where were you and what happened that made you decide to get sober?
Well, so 12 years ago. So I've been sober since 4/20 of 2009.
That's a good date.
Yeah.
Alcohol or marijuana?
Yeah. A lot of people say 4/20. Well, I didn't know what that meant for the first couple years of sobriety because I was all, Oxycontin, fentanyl, alcohol, Xanax, all pain pills and things like that. And I suffered with my own addiction for 12 years. I had a pretty successful career leading up to that. I ran call centers for 17 years. In the early 90s, my dream was to play professional basketball. And I say dream. I had some opportunities, play for the Yakima Sun Kings and things like that, and would have loved it, but, don't know what would have taken place. But I broke my back going up for a dunk in a church and just fractured my L4, L5. And that was early, probably 2021. Dealt with it for a few years and then got married in 1994. And all of a sudden had health insurance. And back was constantly aching, bothering me. And I went to the doctor and had x-rays. And that's when he said, let's give you a prescription of narcotics.
Yep.
And it started with Percocet and Loratab. And then over a few years, for the first few years I read directions. I followed the plan that I was supposed to do. But what happens eventually, your tolerance builds up. You need more, and more. And then I believe it was like 96 or 97, Oxycontin came out. And it was marketed as this amazing drug for cancer patients, right? Because it had it extended, time release, and it would take one and last all day, supposedly. So my doctor said, and it was supposed to be better on my liver. So he said, instead of taking all this Loratab, Percocet, why don't we try Oxycontin? And I was like, okay.
They also said, I want to interrupt you. They also said it was non-addictive.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I call bullshit on that, as we all do.
Right.
But, and then I think that's when I really became an addict, for the moment I took Oxycontin. It was, when I first started taking it, I thought it was my cure, right? I felt good mentally. I felt good physically. And I had energy, and for the first couple of years, I was all right. But then that desire of needing that every day. And then, over the period of years, when you don't have it, you go through the withdrawals, you feel like you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the most awful thing in the world where, unless you've been there, it's hard to explain to your kids and your wife. When you're curled up in a ball and you can feel like the hair on your legs growing. I mean, right. It's, the nerves, you feel everything. Went through that cycle for a few years. And then my best thinking is like, well, if I can only get it from one doctor, let's try another doctor.
That makes
and
sense.
Another doctor and another doctor. And then in 2007, I went into the emergency room about 2 a.m. I'm in a suit and tie, just got off work, and I get arrested by undercover DEA and handcuffed to the chair because they ran a Doppler report on me. I was in the ER, and it showed I had 9,000 pills filled in 1 year. So I got arrested, was very shameful, was very, my best thinking still was in the way because I was like, well, shit, what do I do? And it kind of fueled my addiction. And then my court case went on for like 3 years. So I didn't stop. And during that time, I'm hurting my kids, I'm hurting my wife, I'm losing jobs, I'm overdosing, ambulances are coming, I'm having seizures because Xanax got involved.
How was your family at that time? What was your wife doing or thinking?
My wife was like, how can you be an addict when it's prescribed by a doctor? Like, I don't understand, because I wasn't out partying. I wasn't out doing other things. It was me causing all the chaos in our life. Had a massive car wreck. I overdosed and fell asleep at the wheel and drove off a bridge, and my truck caught on fire. A guy pulled me out, broke my sternum. That allowed me to continue getting pain meds, right? Mm-hmm. Now I got a back and a broken sternum. And, in my disease, I'm a master manipulator. Mm-hmm. I convinced everybody around me that they're crazy, and it wasn't me. And everything that I was doing was normal. I don't know what's going on. I don't understand why why you're so worried about me, because I couldn't see everything that was going on. It's like I explain to people, it's like Jekyll and Hyde, right?
Right.
You're this person when you're not in it, and you're stuck in your addiction, and then you're this other person completely. It's strange. It just changes the whole chemical being of a person.
You have a problem, but you don't even know how to even start, and you can't imagine your life without it.
And then you're taking enough just to function, right? It's just so you don't get dope sick, and you can get up and get out of bed, and get up and get into the shower. So the cycle continues. I'm in and out of work because I'm just not being responsible. Drugs are ruling my life. I'm lying, I'm pawning stuff, I'm getting money from family, hurting my kids and my wife. And the whole time she's working, making sure our 3 children are fed, making sure they're getting to sporting events, getting to school, while I'm just imploding from the inside. I remember going to work one day, working just after I got arrested, and I was working graveyard, just working it was like 11 p.m. to like 8 in the morning. I was detoxing and I was just clammy and sweating and just that I feel like I'm going to jump out of my skin. And I went around a corner of my car and just hit the gas at like 60 miles an hour and ran into a tree because I was done. I was hurting and I didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of treatment. My side of the family is alcoholics. My mom, my dad's side are, drug addicts. Didn't know how to reach out for help. Didn't know how to ask for it. So I hurt my knee during that. So then it gave me a little bit of time to be home for a few months, right? I remember the day they're going to take off the brace, having a doctor's appointment and running out into the garage, taking that brace off and taking a rubber mallet to my knee.
You kidding me?
No, and I just beat the hell out of it. Yeah.
All right.
Beat the hell out of it because if I go in there and it's still swollen and still looks awful, they're going to still give me medication, right? Mm-hmm. That's my way of thinking. They did for a short period of time. And then, during these times, I'm arguing with my wife. Cops are always coming over, trying to de-escalate. The local bishop in my ward is coming over, trying to just reason with me, but nobody could. I knew what was best. I knew what I was doing and didn't see everything else.
When you had that mallet in your hand, you were hitting your knee with it. Do you remember thinking anything at that time?
I need to make sure that they're convinced.
That so you can continue having pills.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the insanity of opiates.
Yeah.
That you'll do anything. And a lot of people listening to this show also are in law enforcement and they're out there dealing with the public and dealing with addicts on the street. And they see a lot of crazy things out there. It'll make you do crazy things just to get normal because you can't think of anything else but getting that drug back into your system.
Yeah. And I remember, and then I got a drug dealer, right? And I remember going to a 7-Eleven. My kids are in car seats in the back, knowing that I've seen this on Cops, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen how this plays out. Like I'm putting my family, my kids in this situation, but I can't function. Like it's just the hardest thing to understand. Mm-hmm. It just takes over everything about you and every bit of common sense as well. Like to put your kids in that situation, knowing what I'm doing, hoping that I get away with it. And then I think there's also that high of getting away with it, as well. But you look at me, I've been an athlete my whole life. I'm 6'5". I don't think most of us look like what people think drug addicts look like. And that's the thing that we've learned is it doesn't discriminate. Doesn't matter the color of your skin, what you do for a living. If you live on the east side, the west side, that doesn't, it'll take over and consume everything about you and it destroys all your relationships.
Yep. I wore a uniform and a badge and, I didn't fit the normal category of being an addict or an alcoholic. So what happened then? So did you never heard of any kind of recovery? Did you ever think about, hey, I need to go into treatment? I need to get sober?
Back in the 2000s, insurance didn't cover residential treatment. So unless you had unlimited funds at the time, it just wasn't talked about. And early 2000s, I went through detox probably 4 times. And all it was come in, 3-day stay, put you on Suboxone, and you home. Like that's, and the idea that you're going to be on Suboxone just the rest of your life. Like there was nothing else, But what can you do in 3 days? When you're a detox, a medical detox, the point is to get you feeling a little bit better, right? And have a little bit of a plan, but never had anybody come talk to me. Never, maybe there's a different way, Travis, maybe you should try even outpatient.
Right. No aftercare plan at all.
Nothing at all. Yeah. So, and then that time, again, not working. My wife and I are more roommates. I'm sleeping on the couch for years downstairs, right? Mm-hmm. She's sleeping upstairs. I'm physically there, but I'm not mentally there for my kids. I'm not going to family activities. I'm not going to basketball, soccer, baseball because I'm sick. Everything the family planned, even vacations, I had to have what I needed to be able to go on any activity, even for a day. If I didn't have 2 or 3 or 4 in my pocket, I wouldn't go. I just couldn't. But everybody was seeing it. Everyone could understand. And my wife was an enabler. She'll tell you that. She was making excuses up and trying to seem like everything was good. And then, it got to the point where it just continued getting out of control. It got worse and worse and worse, and not eating, erratic behavior, up all night.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest things about opiates is you don't go to the bathroom for a couple of weeks, the more you take. So I'm gaining weight, and I'm not feeling well. And again, throw into multiple overdoses. And then this time at the end, the last 2 or 3 years of my addiction, Xanax gets involved, right? So, which I tell people is like a pill form of alcohol. It has the same type of effect. You're not drinking it, but you're taking a pill form. It's supposed to be for anxiety. It's supposed to be, things like that, to kind of bring you down and get you more calm, kind of like alcohol does for most people.
And highly addictive, and you get dependent just like you do on alcohol.
Yeah, and that's what I had the seizures on. I remember sleeping on the couch, and I believe it was a Sunday, and my littlest girl, who's 17 now, I think she was 4 at the time, something like that, comes downstairs and was laughing because she thought I was playing with her while I was having a seizure. And my son came running down, and I guess my eyes were back in my head, and what happens from seizures. So the ambulance came. My wife says they asked all kinds of questions, and I had no idea what year it was. I thought it was the 80s. I didn't know that was my wife. And I didn't know. I guess it was like 3 days. I didn't know. I just remember the pain from the inside of my thighs from clenching up from what a seizure causes. And then what it did to my driving record. Every 6 months I had to have my doctor sign off, and I couldn't drive at night, and just all these different things for about 5 years, to show that I wasn't, I didn't have epilepsy. It was a drug-induced seizure. So then that was an excuse for me. Well, I can't get a job, I can't drive. So it was just these different things leading up to what God had planned for me, I truly believe. I remember, everything that we do along our addiction. I was getting 120 Xanax a month, right? Went to my doctor, my psychologist, got the Xanax, and I went and filled it at the pharmacy that I'd go to. Well, they had filled that, and I guess I had one more refill on the last batch, and I got 2 bottles of 120.
Wow, bonus.
So I know, right? So that's what an addict like myself says. Holy hell, right? One's good.
There really is a God.
Yeah. And of course, things were awful at home. I wasn't, doing anything well except being just not mentally present. So I get them all, and my wife and I are just arguing. And I believe it was a Thursday that I got the prescriptions. And I was at a point where I was taking 20 at a time, 20 bars. I mean,
wow,
which people just like can't believe. But, I'm 6'5" at that time, 250 pounds. Years and years of abuse on my body and building up tolerance. So I'm eating them like Skittles. My wife and I believe, got in a fight on that Saturday. And I believe I packed up the car and just left. And I'm not in my right mind. I'm not thinking about anybody else. And my getaway was always the West Desert, which is like Wendover in Nevada. It's like a little mini Vegas.
Okay.
So that was, I guess, my thought process at the time. And I remember getting a little drowsy and rolling the window down, turning the music up. And I know I was doing about 120 miles an hour. Just in that I don't give a shit, my life's over mentality. And then I guess I rolled and crashed, and jaws of life got me out of the car, got me to the local hospital. And this is the one thing I will never forget. And when I tell my story, it's just to this day, I'm just so grateful to be here talking about it. But in the hospital, they're bringing me back to life. They see I'm cutting my shirt, and I'm looking down, and it's just the weirdest thing. And I get smacked in the back of the head. And I look over, and it's my guardian angel. And I'm looking down, and they're reviving me. And he goes, "You got three options. And right now you're going to choose one because I'm exhausted and I'm tired. Like you're not getting it. He goes, one, I'm going to let you die on the table if that's what you choose. Two, if you keep this lifestyle up, you're going to kill somebody in a car and you're going to go to prison for a long time. Or three, you're going to get sober. And I need you to pick now. And I picked get sober. And my journey started from then. I went to treatment a week later, 2 weeks later, and spent 95 days in residential.
Wow. So your guardian angel, was this like a physical form that you saw?
Yeah.
What did it look like? Can you describe it?
It was a guy with long hair, looked like a surfer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll never forget that. I don't remember. And the oddest thing, and I thank God every day I didn't hurt anybody in that accident. Because that would be awful for that family or whatever happened from my choices.
Right.
But I also had no, damage to my body, nothing. And I must have fell over this way because the roof caved in and the car was destroyed. But I truly believe God had another plan for me.
Well, look at you now. Look at where you're at now. Of course God did. And of course, there's an intervention. We all have interventions. You're an interventionist now, saving other people or trying to at least help them in that. Yeah. And 100% for you that there is a God. So no one can ever dispute that with you. And you've been sober ever since. So you ended up going into treatment. And what happened? Was that the first time you've ever been into a treatment facility before, or any kind of groups or therapy? And
yeah, first time I ever went, and the last time I went to residential. Yeah, so 95 days working on myself, dealing with my past. My dad gave me up for adoption, and when I was like 4, was not a good person. He ended up dying from a drug overdose about, I think, 10 or 11 years ago. But just finding out who I was, because my identity was an athlete my whole life, basketball player. Like that's what my identity was wrapped up in. So I didn't know who I was when I was a drug addict, or even early in recovery. Like, who am I? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to do? Like a lot of us struggle with that. I know I have 3 small kids, an amazing wife. What do I do? How do I do it? I've got legal issues, turned down for 22 jobs, amazing resume, great interviewing skills. But as soon as I did a background check, I get that letter in the mail that said, thank you, we're going to go with another qualified candidate.
Sure. And
that was like the first 9 months. My license was suspended for the first 6 months. That last wreck, I didn't get a DUI or anything. I got improper lane change.
They never gave you a DUI for it, huh?
No, they couldn't. They tried. But I guess with Xanax, they couldn't, the time life or the shelf life, they couldn't say when I took it or how long it'd been in my system.
Got it. All right.
And I had a good lawyer that we hired, and it saved my life. And there's actually really good friends of mine now. They actually expunged my record for no charge 2 years ago. If I have a record, it's like, no, I don't. So it's all expunged now. Great. But anybody out there that's watching and can relate, just don't give up. It does get better. And it's not supposed to happen right away. Like it took 5 years in recovery for my life to start really turning around. I'm grateful for that journey.
That's great. Did you go to any kind of, do you run any kind of program personally yourself, like outside of getting those 95 days? Did you go into AA or NA?
AA, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I've been an AA guy for a long time.
Well, good. And there's a lot of programs out there for people, and recovery is possible, and you're living proof of it.
Yeah.
So about 5 years into it, you seem to get your life back in order again, and you're sober. You're working a good program, and are you working at that point?
Yes. Yeah. So 5 years into it, I'm working actually in the industry. So I left. My first job was Delta Airlines, on the phones, reservations. I took anything I could get because I wanted to financially, whatever it was, help. And I wanted to show by my actions I'm changing, right? Because that's what it's about. It's no longer the talk, it's the actions. Right. So it wasn't a lot, but it was something. And I was working. And you got to keep your mind, you got to keep your mind busy, and you got to have stuff to do. And as a man, it made me feel good to bring something to the table for my family. And then after that, that's when I got into the industry and was offered a job and took it. just what I knew that's what I wanted to do the rest of my life was relate to other people that were like me.
Mm-hmm.
Showing them that it gets better and you get your relationships back. Not a lot of people can say they're, been married 27 years, and 24 years of it have been 12 years of addiction and 12 years of family recovery. Because we are in this together. The family is in recovery. So 420 is our family recovery date.
That's great. That's great to have.
Yeah.
And you're a success story. And you also do your own interventions, but don't you have not a podcast, but don't you do like living recovery type of videos?
Yeah. So I've got on Instagram, Living Recovery Interventions page, but then I also have a Facebook page and a YouTube channel called Car Talk with Travis, Addiction and Recovery, where I share my stories. And then I also bring in other people in recovery. And we try to keep it about 5 minutes and just do it from my car and just share other people's experiences because, like we talked about, experience, strength, and hope, and pay it forward, because the goal is to connect with one person and go, okay, I get what these guys are talking about. I need to reach out because you're not alone. And I also like to say, you're not special, because when we're stuck in addiction, we think we're the only ones that are like that.
Right.
So that's what I mean by you're not special. You're not the only one that's stuck in addiction. So you got to get out of that ego and pride and pick the phone up and get help.
It's hard to hear sometimes that you're not special. I'm supposed to be unique. I'm supposed to be, and then you think that you're the center of their universe and you find out you're not at all. You're just another one that is thinking that way. And to get positive change in recovery, you have to take those steps. And listening to someone like you, Travis, and you have the experience, you've gone through it all, and you're living proof that recovery is possible and attainable for everybody, as long as they start taking some simple steps in their lives. First of all, is reaching out. It might be listening to this podcast all the way through and finding out how to get a hold of you. I'm sure there's family members out there listening right now that have a difficulty understanding why their loved ones don't see their actions and they can't just stop. And just like you, they didn't know anything about recovery until you found yourself, getting into recovery.
Well, and I think a lot of people, I've done a lot of interventions on well-known people, and they get stuck in that, I don't want to be looked at like this. They think that it's going to do something with their career, or it's going to make them look in a bad light. I'll tell you what, people love to hear honesty, and people love to hear that you're not perfect, that you maybe suffered from depression, you have anxiety, like you're like everybody else.
Right.
You've just been given a gift to maybe do something else in your career that makes you at a higher, profile. But we all struggle. We all have our issues. And the more we talk about it, I just did a video last week talking about men and mental health. Like, we don't talk about this enough. The way I grew up on a farm. You didn't talk about your issues. You swept them under the rug, and you just dealt with it, and as we get older and have kids, it starts coming out. It comes out in our pores, and it comes out, in our everyday lives and how we respond and how we react. And think that we have to know that it's okay to not be okay.
Definitely.
Especially as men, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not ask for help. There's so many resources out there, and the biggest thing is you're not alone. You're not alone. And the more we talk about it, the more we normalize it and bring awareness and attention to it, the more people are going to get help. The longer as first responders, you're going to have a longer, more successful, happier career. You're going to have a better family life, because then you're not bringing it home.
Right.
So yeah. So I just want to let people know that it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. And as a man, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, because we're brought up that way. We're brought up that, hey, we have to put on this face, we have to supply work, and we have to provide. And how can we say that we have a problem? And these, people that are high profile people, politics, movies, whatever it is, Look at, Robert Downey Jr., perfect example.
Yeah.
He's out about it, and look what he's doing. He's Iron Man, for God's sake.
Yeah.
That guy's amazing. So, everybody has their own path to follow. And I think it's so great to be able to talk about this openly, because if we don't speak about this, if we're not vulnerable, then how do we expect anybody else that comes into our life to be vulnerable to us? And it might be the very first time that they meet you in person that they might say something that they've never said to anybody in their whole life.
Yeah.
And like how recovery works, and there's a lot of different sayings that go around, and I do like most of them now, is that you're sick as your secrets. If you're holding stuff in and you're not willing to share it, and you're a strong man, a strong woman, I can't do this because I'm competing against men in this men's dominated field. How can I ask for help?
Right.
Let alone a male going out and asking for help and appearing weak. It's the opposite. And you take the power right away from it when you talk about it. So,
yeah. And, I'm always about, you don't have to keep digging and reach your bottom to where your job or your marriage is at the last steps. The goal is to, when you see a problem, I like to raise the bottom, because I don't believe everybody has to lose everything to understand.
No.
If we can change the direction and come in earlier, get a plan together, that's what we want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Finding your bottom. You found your bottom on a desert floor somewhere, in the hospital room. The moment you put down the shovel and say, I'm done, the shovel's always going to be there, but you don't have to pick it up anymore. Stop digging. You always hear, high bottom drunk, low bottom drunk, high bottom addict. It's wherever you find your end, then end it and start doing something about it, and work some positive program of recovery.
Yeah. And also, don't compare stories. We all have a different story in life. Don't say, oh, I'm not that bad, or I'm not this bad. When you have friends and family coming to you and saying, I'm kind of noticing something, look at that.
Yeah.
Take a step back. Don't react. Look at that and realize and listen to what they're saying, because that might be your first intervention.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, and they call that pre-contemplation. Everybody else, you might seem you have a problem, but you think you have no problem.
Yeah.
Until you get to the contemplation stage where there's a problem, but you're not really ready to do anything about it. And some people stay in that phase their whole life and die in that phase. And we'd like to get you a little bit past that. So I know if a first responder does contact you working for True Recovery and First Responder Wellness out of Newport, deals specifically with first responders, and True deals with general population. How would we be able to get a hold of you if someone wants to get a hold of you and maybe talk to you about an intervention, counseling, maybe getting someone into therapy? Because I know that you probably have connections all over the place to get people. It depends what state they're in.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to let you know that it's very confidential. That's the first piece. It's very important. If you contact me, nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very organized well. But my phone number is 801-573-4188. And you can text me, call me, leave a voicemail. If I'm not able to help you with our programs, then we'll get you to the right place that can. That's the most important part, is that we get you the help you need.
Right on. Is there a website they can get you at too?
Yeah, you can go to truerecovery.com. So there's a few, right? You can go to truerecovery.com. You can also go to livingrecoveryinterventions.com. And then you can go to, what's our first responder one?
First responder. It's firstresponder-wellness.com. www.firstresponder-wellness.com. And that's a simple recovery first responder wellness program. And we deal just with first responders. And
I'll tell you what a team too.
Yeah.
I just, yourself, 19 years as a police officer working. So you've got people that have been through it when first responders come in. I love Dr. O. He does a fantastic job. And then we've got Dr. Markham
upstairs. Yeah.
On the traditional side. So amazing overall therapists to come in and help you work through it. So that's important.
Yeah. We all work as a team there, and everybody's culturally competent working there. All our therapists doing EMDR, our groups, our facilitators, our case managers.
Mhm.
we're all on point and we work good together as a team. I mean, we work as a good, solid family team, and the peers there really do a lot of their work outside of the recovery, the treatment
Yeah.
facility, and they really bond, and a majority of them get to go back to work, or at least leave in a better note, in a more positive note, and having some kind of more direction, maybe get their life back, maybe get their family back, maybe get their job back, or move on to a new career. So it's definitely a blessing. And I do believe in a higher power. I do believe the higher power has brought us together to speak about this,
Yeah.
and others listening, that there is hope. It is hope. And believe me when I say that there's hope, and I believe there's hope for everybody. Even if you don't believe it for yourself, grab a small percentage of what I believe for you, and there, it'll be true eventually if you keep on doing the work and start getting help for yourself.
Well, and also, to get treatments easier now than ever, we have like 14 different in-network contracts. So don't think
Yeah.
that, you know what I mean? So, and it's a quick process between the first phone call and admissions and getting the screenings done and getting clinical medical approval. Our team understands the urgency
Yeah.
and does a fantastic job with that. And it's, and at the end of the day, it's, we just want you to feel better. We're all humans. We all go through things in our life. We all have some type of traumatic event. We all have maybe some PSI,
Mhm.
and so to get the tools to feel better, it's just, I mean, for you and I to sit here and the gift we've been giving, and now we got to kind of pay it forward. It's just, it's such a blessing.
It really
What?
is. I really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you so much for taking time out. I know you're always busy doing stuff, and you're out of Utah right now, right?
Yes. Yep. I'm
So
in Utah.
right on. So I think we covered a lot of good things, and I just want people to know who you are and what you're doing out there, because it's definitely important. And that's why I named this podcast Positive Connections. You're one of the positive connections, and I think if we all work together as a team, and we're able to connect the dots throughout the country. I mean, we're talking about, I know you work with Code 4, Northwest, who else? Blue Help.
Blue Help, a little bit with the peer support couple in Texas. We've done first responder conferences, which has been good. Ed and Karen in Colorado, those guys do an amazing job and are always working or coming up with new ways to help first responders. And they've got, this is people who help first respond. This is their life.
Right.
They want their brother and sisters to get well and to have a great long career, because, first responders are putting it out there. They see a lot, they go through a lot, and it's hard for them to walk through the door and shut off their day and be the dad or be the husband. And so I think we all have the same destination there. And that's for everybody to be able to have that better quality of life.
Definitely. And all those places are great. I just met Ed a couple of weeks ago when he brought him over for a tour of a program, and good guy. And we're all in it for the right reasons. And the more we connect, the bigger we grow, and the bigger we grow, the more people we're able to connect with. And eventually the stigma surrounding getting help among just anybody, specifically first responders, will start diminishing a little bit, and we'll be able to have long, healthy careers. And even if our careers end shorter, we get an injury and we have to go out, we know what to do and we know where to go.
Yeah.
We know the positive peoples around that. There is help. It's not just the end. When your career ends, you might be able to do something else that'll make you feel just as good or better.
Right. And, again, 2020 was stressful on all of us, and everybody suffered their own difficulty in other ways. But I know alcohol sales went up 300%.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people working from home, lots of anxiety, lots of insecurity, lots of social media where you don't know what's real.
Yep.
And then you throw in just everything else going on. I think that now is a great time to really get in and get yourself dialed in, if you're really struggling, rather than waiting longer, and so real important.
Exactly. It was a real dark year, and it gave a lot of people, valid excuses to, do that and sort of escape it's hard to face. I was working pretty much every day, and driving up to Newport, and it was just, if you weren't out there, it was just crazy. It was nothing was out there, nothing was open, and people being secluded for over a year in their houses definitely might have long-term effects. But like you said, this is a great time to start getting into some program, whether it's just mental health, whether it's a combination of alcohol or other substances, including mental health. Do it. Just do it. At least what's a phone call going to hurt? And
exactly.
at least everybody has Google for the most part nowadays. Google it up and just ask some questions, because recovery is great. There's a reason why we stay recovery. You have 12 years of recovery. I have a little over 9 years, and there's a reason, because life doesn't get easier because you get sober, but the way you deal with life is a lot easier. I can go to bed every night and wake up knowing that I'm going to be grateful. I'm going to be sober. I'm not going to be coming to like I used to do in blackouts. I'm actually waking up, and I'm generally happy, a little groggy, and my days are generally positive. In fact, every day is generally positive when I wake up, and I'm positive, and I try to be, the best person I can be, no matter what happens. And no matter what, I don't care if another pandemic strikes or this one, whatever happens, it doesn't make a difference. I don't have to ever drink again. It's my choice now.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what? And I no longer let a bad 5 minutes control my whole day. There's a saying out there. Was it a bad 5 minutes, or did you have a bad day? Or did you take that bad 5 minutes and make it ruin your entire day?
Right.
You know what I mean? So you get a flat tire, something happens, bill's late. It's like, okay, let's just deal with it. It's going to be okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Figure it out. I think we also get the tools of just, that's not a big deal. Let's learn to breathe through it. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's one of the better things about recovery as well for me, is not everything needs my attention. I've learned, right? And I get to be connected with the people that help me feel good about where I'm at in life, which is good. And I wake up going, okay, I get to make the choices of how people treat me and how I treat people today.
Sure.
Those are the things I can control.
Yeah, you can control in that moment. Even like in road rage.
Yep.
You don't have to cut people off. You can let people by. You don't have to yell out the window to them. You don't going to have these incidences that could wind up like in Orange County, where that little boy got a 6-year-old got shot and killed, and they got the suspects from it. And it is a tragedy. It's a true tragedy. So, love one
just
another.
Wave and smile, apologize. My bad. I've learned to do that. And then they react like, oh, all good. No worries.
Yeah.
Instead of this confrontation. Yeah. Because you never know these days who you're dealing with.
You really don't. Yeah. And bad things can happen for sure. And we want everybody to be safe and just control your own. And don't let that 5 minutes control your whole day or your whole week or the rest of your life. Deal with it as soon as possible. And just know that, you're going to get through it. You're going to get through it.
Absolutely.
So thanks again for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I'd love maybe next time to have you and your wife on there, or maybe I could just have your wife on here. I can ask her a bunch of questions about it.
She would love it. She would love it. Absolutely. Yeah. Whatever we can do. The whole goal is to just be open and honest and share our experiences to help others.
Exactly.
I mean, all we want to do, and to show that you can get through it. Not every marriage is supposed to end perfectly. Sometimes you do have to go your own direction for you to be healthy apart.
Sure.
If you can find a way to be healthy together, do the work, but don't stay together just for the kids. I hear that a lot,
right? And
that never ends well. And you're doing, I think, more damage there than anything.
Sure. Yeah. Be happy, be honest, and love one another, and give yourself a break. Don't be so hard on yourself. The negative self-talk, we all have it to some extent, and just realize it when it's happening and give yourself a break and excuse yourself from thinking those thoughts. Think of something positive.
It's okay to not be perfect.
It's okay to not be perfect. Exactly. Yeah. Be the most excellent you can be.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate you having me on.
You bet, man. And everybody else that listening, have a great rest of your day and a great week, and hopefully a really great life. So we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Positive Connections Radio, in affiliation with Mental Health News Radio. Have a great rest of your day, and until next time, be strong, stand up, speak your truth, and break the stigma.